Here we are wrapping up week 6, step 5, talking a little bit about money management, the effects of social media, which was really part of the discussion board, bringing some of those ideas forward from week 5 about social media, how it works and what it does. And I think that tees in pretty nicely with the health and wellness aspect of this part of the book. And so some ideas here. Look, it's not a class in financial management per se, but some ideas, because uh, it seems to me we don't do a great job at the high school level of really explaining what's out there in the realm of money, investing, of these lending institutions, so-called, that put you on a hamster wheel of debt for really maybe until you lose your car because they've got your title. So we'll talk about some of that, some health and wellness, and I'll try to end this on an upbeat note because some of it is sort of um, depressing, maybe. I don't know. Being informed to me is always a good thing, but the topic can be a little bit bleak at times. So we'll start with the money piece, and I'm going to use some links. Again, these are linked from the video so you guys can get to them yourself. And I'm hopeful, again, these aren't videos as much as websites where you can do financial calculations. And there's one in particular, I'll give a shout out. Hugh Chow has a website that has so many calculators. It's unbelievable. The guy's like a mathematical whiz, but he makes it very simple for you to plug in numbers and see where you stand on paying off a car payment or a house payment or for retirement even. Okay, so that's where we'll go. So, to kick this off, throw that up there. Usually if I'm in class, I'll bring out a $20 bill. So cost, though, about 20 cents. It's gone up since all the counterfeiting, anti-counterfeiting, I should say, devices built into our money now because it was getting too easy to counterfeit. So what's it worth? Well, the answer is $100, right? What a stupid question. Well, is it? What makes it worth $100 is really, I guess, the question. It used to be, even before the United States was a country, there was something typically tied behind the money that gave it value. And for a while in the United States, we used gold. And then there was a time where we used gold and silver, and then there had to be a ratio between the two. But for every dollar in circulation in the country, there was supposed to be a dollar's worth of gold on deposit, which gave it its value. But we've come off the gold standard for over 50 years now. And so really, when you think about it, the only thing that makes that worth $100 is the faith and trust in our government. The fact that I give that to a cashier and I get $100 worth of stuff is the trust we have that that money's going to be is worth something. There's a thing called inflation. And we'll talk a little bit about that, which erodes the value of the dollar over time. The dollar buys less and less. But for the most part, inflation's been pretty well under control. Even now, you're hearing a lot of news about inflation going up. That's true, and some of it has to do with the constrained logistical chain that we have. Coming out of COVID, a lot of companies almost shut down because it wasn't worth anything to do it. And so now trying to catch back up, there's a bottleneck. And it's in the shipping, it's in the trucking, it's in the moving of these goods and supplies around. And so I think what you'll see, is that inflation, while going up, will start to kind of recalibrate and come back down once the supply chain gets back up and running. But it's worth kind of whatever we say it is. Right, and so that leads me into this discussion. I call these businesses the industries of misery, plural. Title loan places, for-profit colleges, these commercials that you constantly see, especially if you watch the evening news. Ask your doctor about Bloviate. Talk to your doctor about taking this. So that thing, ask your doctor if medical advice from a television commercial is right for you. It's pushing medicines for, I guess they're valid reasons, but do we really need to spend it on that? And then if you look at, well, it clears your skin up, but it might kill you. There's a cost, there's a balance there. Is it worth it? And I put these ambulance chasing lawyers, hurt in a wreck, need a check. Ay, ay, ay. They're profiting on people's misery. And so two commercials. One's ridiculous, but I found it so over the top ridiculous I had to include it. The first one up here is it's a little bit dated, but you may recognize it from Title Max Loans, and you guys may have heard of them. Heck, if you drive down Brainerd Road in Chattanooga, it's like nothing but pawn shops and title loan companies. But watch it. It's short. Notice the feel of the ad, the vibe that it gives, the amounts of money available flashed on the screen, how the girl acting out in the commercial feels after she got her title loan. Okay? And then the second one, I called it the most ridiculous. There's probably a new one that trumps it as ridiculous, but it's pretty insane. The Texas Law Hawk. They're both short. They're just worth watching. They kind of illustrate my point on this. And look, I mean, the Title Max loan thing looks sort of like that. Look, I'll give you the title to my car for a couple $1,000s. And guess what? If I don't pay it back, they keep the title to my car. It's called collateral. It's something you give to secure that loan. Do you budget your money? Where does your money go? When I was younger and I didn't have as much coming in and quite a bit going out, I probably could have done a better job. My hair looks wicked. With this eye surgery, I'm not supposed to get water in my eyes, so I've been like trying to just rinse my hair out. It looks insane. Budget your money. Money coming in, money going out, right? That's called a budget. Do you have a credit card? Do you have 1, 2, or 4, 5, 6, 7? And included in that would be specific cards to businesses, right? A credit card to, I don't know, COLLs, for example. Do you? And what can those do for you and against you? What happens if you put something on your credit card and pay the minimum each month? We're going to look at an illustration of that because it's comforting in some respects that, you know, I've got $1,000 on my credit card, but I only have to pay 25 bucks a month. So it's not that big a chunk. Well, that's almost exactly what the bank wants you to do because that's how they make their most money. If you pay off a credit card at the end of each month, which is what I do, you pay 0 in interest depending on the card. Okay. And do you understand the terms? And I just picked a couple, but there's one called Universal Default and one, it's an acronym, APR, Annual Percentage Rate. It's the amount that a bank charges you for the use of their money. So if I have $1,000 on my Bank of America credit card and I pay the minimum, I'm also paying them something called interest. That's how they make their money. And if you pay the very minimum, they maximize their interest extract from you. Universal default is a term that you may have a very good low interest rate on your credit card, say 7 or 8%. But if you miss even one payment, they can jack that rate up because of universal default to 17, 18, 25, right? There's a huge jump that happens. Did you know that? That may make you more judicious on the use of the card and more apt to pay it off each month, at least paying the minimum so that you don't have that. So a bunch of videos that go with this, right? And I think they illustrate the point pretty well. This is another one. It used to be a title loan company, but now they've changed the name. It's basically the same thing, but watch it. The change of name, but also look at the people going in to get these loans. Do they look like they need a loan? Is that the type of folk that are going into these title loan places? Look, I've said it in class, and I'm being a little bit facetious, but I would do almost anything else before going to one of these places. Because again, they put you on this minimum payment hamster wheel of debt, and oftentimes what happens is people that take out a title loan or a payday loan end up needing it again and again and again. And it makes the situation worse. Okay, so that's that one. Here's a short video that's actually objective and honest in its explanation of payday loans. Again, it's very short, but the Pew Research Company is a very credible source. And this is humorous. Look, it comes from a show like Tonight This Week or Last Week Tonight or something. There's a little bit of bad language in it. John Oliver tries to put a slightly humorous spin on it, but this really interviews and talks to people who have been involved in payday loans. And when I do this in class, I'll ask, and almost always there's at least one or two people that have done a title or a payday loan, and they describe it exactly like the folks in John Oliver's video, that it was a disastrous choice and they would never do it again. So I'd say watch it to about the 5-minute and 30 mark from the beginning. Okay, and then this one, and I don't even need to move my head. I'm going to jump out. It's not tech time per se, but I've got a few of these things called up. And so let's bring this one over first and take a look at it. I've put in some information here. It's a payoff calculator. These things are all over the internet. There's no problem finding one. And let's say you have a $2,000 balance on your credit card, and the APR, see that term, annual percentage rate, is 15%. And this one, it's changed since I last used it. It actually makes you pull up a credit card issuer, and you can put in other. But if you have one, I just picked Bank of America, no reason specifically. And then I calculated how much the payoff time would be and how much you would pay in interest. And if you can see it, it's a little small. Let me try to blow this up a little bit. And I'll make it go back. This tool uses the industry average of 3% or $25, whichever is greater, to establish your minimum payment. So that's what I did. I used 3% of 2,000 was $60. If you make this too small, it'll reject it and say no. So you're probably going to have at least a $25 minimum monthly payment. But so if I pay $60 a month on my $2,000 balance and I don't add anything else to the balance, I want you to look at the estimated date I would pay that off is July of 2025. That's 44 months. And this interest that I pay back on my $2,000, this is the money the bank makes for letting you borrow it, $600. That's pushing not quite a third of the overall amount of money you had on your balance. That's quite a bit. Make the number bigger. Let's say as your credit gets better, generally you're able to put more on your credit card. Look at the total interest now. Same payoff period because we're paying the minimum, so that makes sense. But now I've paid back $7,500 in interest. So the reason I bring this whole thing up is understand paying the minimum. Yeah, it may keep you out of universal default. It'll keep the credit card company off your back. In fact, they love it. That's exactly what they want. Because if I pay even half of it back, look what happens to the interest. It takes me 2 months and I pay them $470 on a $25,000 balance. That's why, look, I know I'm in a financial position now as a 58-year-old that I wasn't as a 24-year-old, but I use my credit card for almost everything because it's a cash back card. I won't mention the company because it doesn't really matter, but I get quite a bit of 3% back each month, and I pay off that card every month. And if you pay it off every month, there's no interest paid to the bank. So you're effectively using their money for the whole month, getting a bonus for using their money, and paying back nothing in interest if the card allows it. And I will do a shout out to, and honestly, I haven't used it, but other people I know have, especially if you're younger, there's a website called NerdWallet. And what it does is it takes a look at you, where you are in life, what you're doing with school, what your job's like or not, and recommends probably the best couple credit cards for your situation, as opposed to just picking one. Because if you're like me, you probably get a dozen. Here, try our credit card each month. Right? It's almost a daily thing bombarding you with credit cards. And if you're in tough financial straits, that may be appealing. I'll just get another credit card, and then I can pay off the balance, the minimum. So I've got 3 or 4 credit cards, all maxed out, all paying the minimum, and it's going to take me 4 or 5 years to pay them all off if I don't add any more to the situation, which most of the time we do. Okay, so kind of step one, I guess, in this financial web. And there's all kinds of these calculators out there. So, should I? Yeah, I guess I will jump in. I recommend watching those. So, what other debt do you have? Student loans. You know, one of the things with GNTC that's a benefit is the school's not all that expensive. You have Pell Grants, you have other maybe scholarship opportunities, things that are out there. So you don't finish. Remember, we talked about this way back when. If you start, you should be planning to finish, even if you have to take a year off because of something. Because getting halfway through college and not getting your degree is you're going to pay for it, and you're not going to have that certification at the end. So the other debts we may have, if you have a house, you have a mortgage payment, most likely. If you have a car, you have a car payment, most likely. Rent, things like that. We have these recurring debits that we have to pay. And beware of what we've talked about before, the wants versus needs trap. If I can change something that really is a want into you thinking you need it, you might be more apt to spend money, especially money you don't really have, on a credit card, and get yourself in financial hot water. And there was another one of these commercials. It was around a few years ago, and again, my wife thinks I'm a lunatic, but the commercial was all about, you don't have enough money, but you've got a vacation plan, so why don't you come to Payday Loans R Us and sign away, give us the title to your car to get the money for your vacation. And I was like, that's part of the problem. No. If you can't go on that vacation this time, sorry, ouch, but save up some money and then go on it next month or next year, whatever it is. Don't go to a payday lending source just for a little immediate recreation. I mean, good Lord, if you had to do it, it would have to be some kind of crisis. Not that I want to go put my feet in the sand for a few days. So put your priorities in order as well. And that may sound preachy or like, old man, shut up. But if you get in that habit, now you've put yourself in financial distress for a very short piece of self-gratification. Let's put it that way. So this idea of a budget, it's in the middle. And you've got money coming in, you've got money going out. So I would suggest, at least on the big ticket stuff, that you sit down. If you're having trouble balancing your books, making your checkbook work, making your monthly payments, look at money coming in, my paycheck from work. Maybe I have some investments that I get, like money in a savings account, which pays you pennies a month. It's ridiculously low. Maybe you get a tax refund. Great. Here's the thing. If you're getting a big tax refund each year, that feels good. Ooh-wee, a $3,000 check from the government. But you know what the fact is? You gave the government $3,000 more than you should have out of your paycheck. And so if you did it exactly right, I think you should get zero tax refund, because that means you're maximizing your paycheck every 2 weeks and paying the government just exactly what your taxes will be. Now that's almost impossible, right? A few dollars here, either side, plus or minus, great. But if you're getting $3,000, they had your $3,000 that whole year, and now here it is back to you. That doesn't sound like a good deal to me. What do we spend money on, right? Car, rent or mortgage, food, and some of these other ones. I just started adding them up, and it seems to me, looking at the world, that it's often easy to get the money going out exceeding the money coming in. What happens then? Then you go in debt. And it may be that you float things on a credit card to take care of it. But look, if you've got a lot more going out than coming in, you're going to start missing payments on car or rent, or you start eating beans out of a can. You know what happens when you don't make your car payment? They come take it away. That's why you get the car loan, is because the car itself is that term collateral. The bank knows if you don't make a payment, we get the car back anyways. And here's the thing. Not to be overly dark, it's just the way it works. If you pay regularly for 2, 3, 4, 5 years on a 7-year car loan and you miss a few payments, not only do they have all those years of car payments, they come and take the car back. And the same thing, at least theoretically, could happen with a house. You pay a mortgage for 24 years, and then something happens where you can't. That house is the collateral. So the bank has, the lending company has 24 years of your payments, and now they have your house as well. I mean, look, is that bad? No. Why would you lend to somebody that has no way of paying it back unless they put up something that says, here, this is what's going to guarantee me paying it back, and if I don't, then by law you can take it. Collateral, that idea of backing it up. Okay. Speaking of credit cards for just another minute, I know a lot of folks nowadays have debit cards. I have one. I never use it. I use it to get money out of the ATM if I need it. Here's my thought, and it's maybe a little old school. I like the credit card for the reasons I said. I get to use the bank's money for a month, and I get paid back bonuses for doing it. Plus, I pay it back at the end. But I would recommend, even if you don't plan on using a credit card, to get at least one. Get it. Go buy something not very expensive, and at the end of that month, pay the credit card off. And now stick it in your wallet or your pocketbook. Because having a credit card and paying it off is one of the pieces that builds your credit rating, that says you're not a huge financial risk. Paying your bills on time does that as well. If you don't do those things, then you become more and more of a credit risk. Guess what happens? If you can even get a loan, the interest on that loan is going to be much higher than somebody that's shown a track record of paying their bills. That's what a credit rating is. So I would get a credit card and keep it for emergencies if nothing else. And the other piece is a debit card. If your bank account is dry, it's not going to help you when the transmission blows up on I-75. A credit card will. Right? So 2 reasons. If I have more coming in than going out, that's the better situation. So now I can do something with it. I can throw on vacation, hobbies. I can add some cool stuff, clothes, music, a better stereo, whatever it might be. You know what else I can do? I can take some of that money and divert it into a thing called investments. Maybe it's just saving it in the bank, saving for a rainy day. Pearl of wisdom. You should have, at some point, if you don't now, work toward this. Have 2 to 3 months worth of all the bills you have to pay saved in a bank account. So that way, if something happens, the place you work goes out of business. Now you got to look for a job. It's not a catastrophe and I have to go to the title loan place and sell my spleen. Not being a little facetious, right? But that's how it feels sometimes. 2 to 3 months of what we call a rainy day fund. So when that rainy day comes, you're ready for it. If you have more going out, then you go into debt. We talked about that piece. So obviously the first is better. If I have exactly the same going out as I have coming in, that's cool, provided I have some of that rainy day fund, so that when the car takes a dump and I have to pay $400 to get it fixed, I'm not in dire straits financially. I can go to my rainy day fund, get it fixed, get back on track. 2 to 3 months worth saved up. And what's going up in cost? Everything. And this is beyond just inflation, right? The eroding value of the dollar. I just pulled this one out because it seemed like a good one. The blue line is median family income. And this goes all the way back to basically when I started college. Notice it hasn't moved hardly at all. But public 2-year, Georgia Northwestern, even that line's going up, even though it's affordable. Public 4-year, your University of Georgia, University of Tennessee, and then private like your Harvards and the like. Look at the increase in college costs. And that ended in 2012. So it's up over 400% in some cases. And again, family income's only just now starting to tick up just a little bit. Things are more expensive. And if you're not making any more money, it takes a bigger bite out of the pie and makes it harder and harder to either budget it or just get to college. Right? So it seems like we're working harder and harder to get nowhere. What was the other thing? Yes, when you look at a chart, anytime I throw a chart up, look where it came from. College Board Annual Survey, National Center for Education Statistics, a very credible and accurate source of information. And then the amount of student loans and how much they have ballooned over time. All right. And one of the things to look at here, it comes from credit.com, pretty reasonable. We go, That's not so bad. Increase more than 145%. There are people graduating from some of the state public institutions that were supposed to be for the students of that state to get an education, and they're graduating with $100,000 in debt with a degree in psychology. Wonderful. We do need psychologists, but that field is way over bloated, and so it's not a joke. The other day, my wife went to Starbucks to get a cup of coffee. The kid behind the counter had some kind of University of Tennessee something on, and she mentioned that our son had gone there. Yeah, I just graduated. I graduated the same time. He graduated 4 years ago now. So did the guy at Starbucks. He had a degree in something soft, and that's the best job he could find at the time. So he has a huge debt and a job paying just above minimum wage. So that should plug into your, I'm not saying go for the, just money, money, money only, but as you develop the presentation, if you're going into welding, remember I said 3 main points might be: what education do I need? How many jobs are out there? What do the jobs pay? Be informed about where you're going. Don't just bumble through life. And oh, by the way, future welders, there's a very good market, and B, a very good paycheck if you're a good welder. But that goes with anything. If you're a hack, don't expect a great paycheck or great job necessarily. So earnings by location, that's why I said that. This kind of segues in. Big cities versus small towns. One, you'll probably get paid more in a bigger city, Atlanta versus some smaller town like Dalton. Part of that's because the cost of living in the bigger cities is higher. And so the pay is necessary cost of living. It keeps up with that. But look at it. And look, if you would prefer living in a small town, then understand things will be cheaper. So maybe that paycheck might be a little bit less, but so is the cost of living, so that balance is there. And I live in the small town as opposed to, man, I cannot imagine having to drive in Atlanta traffic every day. I just couldn't do it. So know yourself, know where you want to go. Is there a large training facility? My wife went to a nursing school in a relatively small town in Columbus, Mississippi, right near Mississippi State. And so that school is putting out very good, very qualified nurses, but guess what? There's so many coming out of the school that that local area really couldn't absorb them. So there wasn't much of a demand. So sometimes you have to look at that as well. And if you do find one, there may be lower pay, less opportunity. Look, if I have 100 nurses to pick from and I only need 2, I don't have to incentivize folks with pay. But if I only have 2 applicants and I need 20, I need to do something to bring more nurses in. And oftentimes that's pay or better hours or bonuses, things like that. Okay? State and regional differences. I'll show you a couple examples. And again, that's usually tied to tax rates, cost of living, things like that. I keep looking at my hair. It looks like I just had electroshock therapy, not cataract surgery. So I got this from Evaluating Engineering. It's a website about the engineering career field, and it seemed like a good example as any. And so you can look, they broke the country up into sections, and the numbers associated with that are the average for an engineer in that given area. And so you can look at that. And, again, if I want to stay, I like the Southeast, I want to stay there, not bad, but it's the, second lowest of the 5 sections. Now, personally, I wouldn't want to live in California with all the fires, and I don't want to drive all the way out there. So, but it just adds to your overall picture of where you want to go, what you want to do, that kind of thing. It's good to be informed about it. Northeast, the second highest. Both of these have higher tax rates and higher costs of living, generally, for the entire area. Okay? And of course, since I'm a long-suffering teacher, while I was in the military pay is not the greatest, but it ain't bad. And now I wouldn't join just for the paycheck. I'd join for the idea of service. That's why I stayed in 22 years. But you can see the across the country where the pay is highest and lowest. And again, there's some association with cost of living, but there's also some things. If you look, there's some southern, nice, warm climates, if that's what you like, that pay pretty decent for teachers. And Georgia's one of the better ones. Good for them. That shows they care about teachers. That's my opinion. Why is Mississippi last in education in the United States? Maybe it's because they don't pay very well as part of it. Right. Now this could be, I could go on for hours on investments, so I can't do that. And I just want to introduce you to a few sort of simple ideas when it comes to putting your money away. I wouldn't call a rainy day fund an investment. It's just that. It's a little pocket of money that if I need it, I can use it. Investments, usually you're putting it away for a longer period of time, sometimes for retirement at age 60 maybe, or 65. Which I'm rapidly approaching. Good Lord. Principal. What you're going to hear, especially when you get into car and home loans, principal and interest. Principal is the thing, right, that you're going to buy. Really, it's the amount of the loan that you're going to get to pay for the thing you're going to buy. So the house or the car. And if you put down a down payment, that means the principal is a little bit lower. Say you're going to buy a $30,000 car. You put down $5,000. You're probably going to get a loan for somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000, plus or minus fees and all that other nonsense. Okay, so it's the amount for the thing. The other piece to that, and we've talked about it already, is interest. And that's what the lender is going to charge you because they're loaning you that $25,000 to buy a car. And so you're going to pay them back. And most people don't have $25,000 just sitting around to go buy it, and so they get a loan. And each month you're going to pay $500, $600, $700, whatever the agreed amount, and the length. The longer the loan, the less you pay each month. But the longer it takes to pay it off and the more interest you're going to pay. So find a happy medium. Pay it off as quickly as comfortable. Let's put it that way. Don't put yourself in a box, but don't get a 7-year loan when you can pay it off in 4. Okay? And collateral, I've talked about that. The asset, the thing. Again, that's what, if you don't pay your bills, we're going to come get your car, your house, whatever it might be. That stereo you got from Rent-A-Center, bad idea. Okay? It acts as a form of protection. That's what they want. The bank, the loan department wants something they can recoup some or hopefully all, or maybe even better, more than what they gave you, because you paid on this car for 2 years and now you stop paying. So I got 2 years worth of payments and I got the car. As long as you didn't turn it, into a rolling trash can. Oops, clicking the wrong. He's out of control again. Buy a house. Let's just use that as an example. Some may be there, some maybe have already done this, or you're thinking about it. I'm not trying to push the idea, but a house is, it's nice to have a roof over your head and someplace where you're not just paying rent to somebody else to live there. So one thing, I'll mention it now because we're going to jump out, location. Look at where the house is. Is the neighborhood decent? Look at the schools in and around there. People buying houses almost universally, if they have kids, are going to look at the neighborhood schools. So you want a place that's nice and the school system's decent and there's not a high crime rate. All of those things go into that decision. Now, as you move up, the house prices generally go up as well. But maybe it's worth paying a little bit more to have a safe neighborhood for your kids with a good school nearby. Okay? And all of those things lumped together when it's time to sell that house make it much easier and much more attractive for you to sell that house. So when you buy a house, you're going to hear this term PITI, P-I-T-I. Principal, interest, talked about those two up here, but there's 2 other pieces to a house payment. So be careful. You do a house, you're searching for a house, and you look at what can I afford, and you put it into a calculator with a bank, Bank of America. What they generally do is only look at principal and interest. How much is the loan? How much are you going to pay on that loan toward the house? How much are we going to charge in interest? But if you buy a house, there's 2 other things. You got to pay property tax, which could be a couple $1,000s a year, and you've got to pay insurance on the house because no bank is going to lend you money to have a house that burns down and now they have nothing. Okay? So PITI, that's the number that matters. Just keep that in mind. All right, so let's jump out. And this is going to, I say my buddy. It's just because I've used this website so often. Hugh Chow. Bring it over here. This is one of literally hundreds of calculators that he has available. And so I just bring this one up, the mortgage calculator. And so what I want to do is go through and show you something. let's just make it 100,000. That makes it a nice round number. 100,000 loan on a house. That's actually not a bad number for interest rates. Home mortgage rates are fairly low. The term of the loan, typically either 15 or 30, but you can get a 20, a 10, a 25. There's all kinds of numbers. We're going to leave it as a 30-year loan. And we're going to start in January. Let's just make it this year so we keep it sort of makes sense. I'm not going to show the full, it's called an amortization table, but it shows the breakdown of principal and interest each month, what you pay. We're not going to do any prepayments, and we're not going to do any one-time down payment kind of thing. So let's calculate our mortgage. Okay. So there's the numbers we plugged in, 100,000, 4, blah, 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 blah. Your monthly payment will be $521. On a $100,000 house loan, that sounds pretty good. But remember, that's P&I. That's not the addition of T&I, taxes, insurance. So you can add probably another couple $100 to that amount that you're going to be paying each month for a mortgage. So put that in your brain when you do it so that you don't go, well, I can afford that. But then you add those other two and you go, oh, geez, I can't. Or I just barely, and I'm sitting on a cold house eating beans out of a can, right? And so what happens in January of this first month? Out of that 100,000, 125 bucks, 126 goes to principal. Almost 400 goes to interest. That's how this works. You're paying the bank their interest on the front end, and you're paying for the thing, in this case a house, on the back end. So let's scroll down. And each year you can see, let's go 2 years into the future. I paid almost $1,700 toward the house, but I paid $4,500 toward interest. And what happens is we move through time, the principal goes up, the interest goes down. And so that we get to the last year of that 30-year loan, it's almost all principal and almost no interest. See that? And so knowing that going in, you want to make sure that you're paying it off each month. You don't want to pay in all that interest, not be able to pay your house payment in the last 2 years of the loan, and now they have the house and all of that interest you paid. Okay? And now the thing balances out to the point that you go back, and yes, you're going to pay that much each month. But the bank at the beginning is taking most of that. That's just the way it works, for them lending you that money. Now, I want to go back and show you one thing that's really powerful if you can afford it. And this is how my wife and I did paying off our mortgage. I'm going to leave everything the same, okay, on a 30-year mortgage. But what I'm going to do is add a monthly payment of another $100. I'm paying an extra $100 a month to my loan. And now let's calculate. Now look, the number went up because we added that $100. So that $521 was the original calculation. $621 is what I'm paying now. But let's go to the bottom and see what that does for us. By doing that, I have saved almost getting close to $30,000 in interest and shortened the mortgage from 30 years to 21.5 years by adding an extra $100 a month. Why doesn't everybody do that? One, maybe they don't know. Two, maybe they can't afford it. But even if it's 50 bucks, it'll help. And the reason it's so powerful is that extra $100 a month goes straight to the principal. So instead of just 125, now I'm putting 225, and it goes up each time. So I'm putting that extra $100 against the house. That's why it drives down the mortgage so much quicker. If you can do it, I highly recommend it. Even if it's 50 bucks. And maybe it's not every month you can even do it. But once in a while, if you throw some extra toward the principal, it helps shorten your mortgage. In this case, 100 bucks a month, that shortened it by 8.5 years and saved you how much? $28,000 in interest to the bank. Man, maybe a little bit of $100 a month pain is worth that $30,000 and 8.5 years shorter. Now I own my house. Just a thought. Okay. And one more thing before I jump back in. This is in, the links, but you can go to Hugh Chow's full calculator site, and it is unbelievable. He's got a calculator on how much money you'd save if you stopped smoking. And there's so many on there. I find it highly useful. Right. So think of places where you can invest money, and in a class I'd ask people to come up with some. Where do you save or invest? Save is easy. We tend to think of the bank, but again, you're going to earn pennies on your money in the bank. Right? Effectively, the interest rate from banks is zero. But there are other things out there. There's stocks, there's mutual funds. If you're working, you've probably heard of a 401k. It's a quasi-retirement fund that was never meant to be one, but it's kind of defaulted into that. And it can be good if you have an employer that contributes some money to your 401k as well. We'll talk a little more detail. IRAs, as in individual retirement accounts, and CDs. Those are certificates of deposit, where you buy a CD for a set amount of time and it pays more interest to you because you've given the bank your money this time than your normal checking account. Stocks. Let's say you buy 100 shares of Company X. Let's make it Walmart. Now you buy 100 shares of Walmart. You're investing that money into Walmart. They can use it to revamp stores, build new stores, whatever it is. And you own 100 little pieces of Walmart. That's what those shares stand for. So you can buy some more, you can sell those shares, and being a shareholder allows you to vote in how the company does business, the board of directors, things like that. Now that sounds great, but 100 shares when there's several million shares of Walmart floating around, you don't have a huge say, but at least you have some say. And the thing I hear from students often as well, the stock market is just like Las Vegas. It's just gambling. I understand that a little bit, but you can also do a whole lot of research about Walmart. How's the company doing? Are they building new stores? What's going on within the company? And you can look at a trend of how's that stock doing. Okay, and that's what this link is. So I'm jumping in and out a lot just because I pulled up a lot of these to look at. If you want to know, then I just pulled up Yahoo Finance. You can look at how's Walmart doing. Well, today it's down 75 cents, not much, but a share of Walmart costs $149. Okay? But the more interesting thing to me is looking at the trend. And so I put it on a 5-year. You can do it a year, 6 months. You can look at how's the stock been doing. Over the long term, if I bought Walmart way back here, it was $71 a share. It's now at 149. So in a sense, it's effectively doubled since November 7th, 2016. And you can look at all these other things, company outlook charts, statistics, historical data. So I don't buy the whole, it's just Las Vegas. But look down here, do you notice this? Fair value. This is a bunch of financial analysts. They're saying that they believe Walmart right now is overvalued. So that means maybe stay away from it for a little bit. Maybe it's due for a little bit of a correction and come back down. I don't know. I'm not interested in Walmart as a company, primarily because I don't like the way they do business. But that's me. You might be. Okay? And the thing is, too, if you buy it at $70 a share and it goes way up, but then it goes back down. Let's say it goes down to $40 a share. Have you lost money? The answer is sort of, but not until you sell it, because you still got that stock. So you hang on to it through a dip, and then a couple of years later it comes up to 149 bucks. Now you sell it, you with those 100 shares now bring in what? $14,900, and you paid 7,000 something for it back then. Now you do have to pay taxes on that, but that tax rate is lower than the tax rate on work, which is a very stupid thing in my mind, but that's the way our country does stuff. That's part of the debate right now in Washington, is that I pay much less money that I make from the stock market as the money I make from working. To me, why the heck aren't they the same? Money's money. But that's just me, and I don't want to go off on a tangent. So that's stocks. Mutual funds, good Lord. I'm just going to briefly talk about this. If you're really interested, I recommend you go to that Investopedia website where they really talk about it. But a mutual fund is sort of like stocks, but what a mutual fund does, it buys different companies, Walmart, Firestone, you name it, pick a couple others, COLL, and it puts all of the shares of all of those different companies in kind of a bucket. And when you buy a share of a mutual fund, you're buying a little slice of each of those companies within that bucket. And so what that does is it spreads out the risk. If I just own stock in Walmart and Walmart's going up and down like crazy, well, so is the value of my investment. But if Walmart is just one of 50 stocks that are in this mutual fund, Walmart going up and down has almost no effect on the mutual fund. So it dampens out. It won't shoot up as quick, but it won't go down as quick either. And that's honestly what most of my investments are in mutual funds. And they have professionals on board. In fact, let me do this. Look, these slides are there if you want to look through the details, but I think this picture shows it as well as anything. That's the advantages of a mutual fund. Professionally managed. There's somebody dedicated to keeping an eye on all 50 stocks that are part of that fund to see what's going on in the world and to change them. They'll buy and sell, move stocks, the ones that are more lucrative, that look to be better, and dump the ones that aren't. And could I do it? I don't know. Maybe it'd be a full-time job though. So why not get a professional to do it? Now, does that come free? The answer is no, but you can bring down the cost of owning a mutual fund to almost zero, right? So hold that thought for just a second. There's a thing called load, and I know all these terms can get jumbled up, but it's the cost, the fee involved with using, look, they got to pay that money manager. He's not going to do it for free. And so the cost of owning a mutual fund. And you pay a little bit when you sell it too. But there's these loads, front load, you pay up front. And I've seen those, like the first payment, you pay half of your initial investment to damn fees. Forget it. Backload when you sell. But this is the one I want you to look for. If you're starting to think about, this is not a paid announcement for anybody, look for no load mutual funds. You're going to pay a very small commission, a small yearly fee, but they don't have any of these front back level loads that you're paying, which are large, can be large. No load mutual funds are very small, and that's all of mine. Mutual funds and no load. And I've put them in different places. One's a technology sector, one's a kind of a world energy, moving to clean energy, green market sector. So you can kind of put your money where your mouth is too. You can invest in companies you believe in. Now, I'd still make sure they're viable. Don't just purely follow your heart, but that's part of it. And so that's who I use. A company called T. Rowe Price, and I've been extremely happy with them since I started investing 30 something years ago. Okay. So, and this is just an example. This happens to be one of the funds I've invested in. And this isn't my chart. I just pulled it up. But you can see, again, just like the stock market, if you invested in this global tech fund back in September, it was at, 10,000? Now it's up to 16,000. There's no guarantee it's going to go up, right? You hear that all the time. There's no guarantee of success. But if you do your homework, isn't technology just expanding all over the place? So it seems like a logical choice. And that note in red, time is key. The sooner you can start putting away a few dollars beyond your rainy day fund, the more you're going to end up with in the end. And I'll try to explain why. But if you say, I'll do it later, and you end up kind of frittering away your money for 10 years on stuff that ends up breaking or you throw away, you can never make up those 10 years that you lost as a 20-year-old later in life. And the reason why is it's called compounding. Time is a part of investing, right? We'll come back to that. Hold that thought. Here's a couple more, and again, I don't want to bog down, so I put that link to Investopedia so that you can look at individual retirement accounts. There's a couple different types. CDs generally done at the bank, and let's say you do a $10,000 CD for 6 months. You're going to get X amount of interest, whatever they have going that day. If you do $100,000 for 5 years, you're going to get a lot more interest. Why? Because the bank knows they have that chunk of money for that amount of time. So the bigger the amount and the longer the duration, the more you're going to earn in interest. Now, one thing to know with CDs is, yes, if I put some money in, 10,000 for 6 months, and all of a sudden my car blows up and I need that money, can I get it out? The answer is yes, but you're going to pay a substantial penalty for getting your money out. So just make sure it's something you don't really need for a while before you do it. Me personally, I've never done a CD ever, but that's just me. And so retirement planning, that's kind of all what we're talking about. That 401k, put some money away, especially if your employer is going to put some in as well. And this blue link, I didn't call it up. Let me call it up just to make sure it still works. But there's so many of these out there as well. It's a how much do I need to retire calculator. And some of them can be very involved. Let's just do it I know we're getting a little bit long, but this is good stuff. Say your current age, let's make it 25. So you get a long way to retirement. Your annual income is 50,000. Spouse, don't have one yet, right? Current retirement savings, let's say I have $5,000 saved up. And I'm shooting for retiring at 65. And that's not a bad number. I want to have money for the next 20 years after, so I make it to 85. Now look, part of this Social Security, if it's still around, I can't guarantee you that, will help. Inflation, some of the numbers, those aren't bad to just leave in the assumptions they plug in. Do you want to include Social Security? In this case, let's say no, and maybe we'll come back and put in yes. Calculate. And if this works, this is going to be a staggering number. Based on 7.5 of your yearly income. This would be $3,700 a month you need to save to get to retirement, okay? Including the amount already saved. So that's how much this is figuring out you need to retire based on inflation and everything else. Basically $1.5 million, right? But that's to pay for the next 20 years after you retire. So yes, that's a lot. And look, 314 a month. That's not chump change either, is it? When you're making $50,000 a year. So that's why starting sooner is better. So let's do a couple things. Bear with me. $314 a month, and we started at 25 years old, remember? So let's go back. Hopefully all our numbers are still in there. Yes. And now let's say we're going to start at 35 years old and run the same calculation. Now I need $581 a month to get to that same target. Okay. The reason this is lower is I've started later. Look at the monthly jump from 341 to 581, 240 something bucks, just because I started later in life. So you can't make up for lost time. I didn't have to go back. Let's do one more. Let's go back to the original, 25 years old. And now we're going to add Social Security, which hopefully the politicians won't mess up, but I have little trust in that. Now it's down to $142 a month. I might be able to do that if I start early. Okay? That's why time is critical. And there's all kinds. I didn't really mean to go off on this, but there's all kinds of retirement calculators out there. Is this perfect? No. But at least it gives you an idea as to how much maybe I should be putting away to make it to the finish line in life. Because we don't want to end up, I'm going to jump ahead, and I'm not picking on this poor lady, but you see more and more and more of this because people didn't plan for retirement, or they didn't put in enough, or they had no idea. And so now effectively, God bless her, she's probably going to work until she dies. And I want to spend the last 20 years of my life not working at McDonald's. Thank you very much. Look at that stat. It's staggering. 60% in the U.S. have less than $25,000 outside their home value. That's it. And you saw what the number was to actually retire. So what do they got? 2 or 3 months of retirement saved up? That's why that picture matters. Right, so let's wrap up with this idea of compounding. And again, I'll try to be clear. This is a oh man, that freaks me out when Alexa starts talking. I must have said something. She's in the other room and she recognized it. All right, there's three things to look at here, and it is the blue, the green, and the yellow. The blue is the amount of your original deposit. So let's say it's 100. Let's make it 1,000. We'll add a zero to everything. $100, big deal. And we're compounding at 8% over 20 years. Okay? So that original 1,000 bucks. The second block on top of it's the green. That's what I earned on that $1,000. Okay, so let's jump forward to the 9-year mark. I put in 1,000. I've earned interest on that original 1,000. And now what's starting to happen is because that interest goes right back into the account, the total value of the account is going up. So now from that 1,000, I'm up to maybe 1,700 total. And because of that, now the yellow part, I'm still earning interest on however much is in that account. So as that account value goes up, notice how the curve really starts to take off on compounding. So the longer you can keep something in an account earning 8% interest, extend that out for another 20 years, you're going to be earning way more each month in interest than you ever put in the beginning. That's why time is so important. Thing is, if I need that somewhere and I've got to take some out, sometimes that happens. But get back and, maybe try to refresh that account, get the money back in there. Compounding works. Here's just the inflation rate in the U.S. We've seen some spikes. This is back in World War I. We've seen it go down. But you can see it bounces around, typically in a range around that 3 to 4%. This ends, right now we're at about 5.5 or 6% because of that supply line thing we were talking about. And then the last piece here, without getting into a rant, you saw it kind of strung out on the cost of college chart. But the thing that's frustrating to me on this is that median household income from way back in the 70s has really not gone up all that much. If we go back to, say, 1980, median household income has barely budged. And yet American workers are working more efficiently, more effectively, and almost all of the gains are going to the top 1%. So it seems to me things are a bit out of whack. The CEO deserves more pay? Absolutely. 600 times more pay? Absolutely not. That's Mike's opinion. There's a link to the article where I pulled this. This comes from the Census Bureau right here. And then two videos that help kind of capture big numbers humans have a hard time understanding. I say America's approaching $30 trillion in debt. Remember looking at the debt clock? What does that really mean? So the first one, I'm an equal opportunity offender. The first one's about President Obama when he put forth an idea of what sounded like a big number, a tax, looking at government and try to make it more efficient, to do away with some waste. And the guy uses a table full of pennies to illustrate it, and it's fantastic. The second one, again, is a little bit dated because I just watched it, and it shows the overall national debt is $15 trillion. We've about doubled it in 10 years, thanks to both Democratic and Republican leadership, or lack thereof. Okay, so that second one's really good at showing you, visualizing what this debt looks like. I highly recommend these two. Right? And they're very short. They're typically YouTube 2-3 minute videos. So we don't want to be there. Look, I'm going to skip this. We've talked about the idea of the American dream and becoming kind of all about stuff. So the last piece of this is on health. Okay, and these were the questions from the discussion board. And so I hope you thought about these. Why do lies travel faster? Are we so enamored with? Well, there's a saying in news, if it bleeds, it leads. If it's shocking, people are going to look at it. If it sounds outrageous, people are going to forward it. And if it fits into their thought bubble, their situation bubble, that, yeah, I knew that, and this is just confirming it, it travels faster. 6 times faster. Fake news travels more than fact, because sometimes fact is just dry. But look, facts are facts. Fake news and alternative facts are BS. Do we have a shared reality? I still think so. I hope so. And it's grounded in the founding of the country and the idea that we can always get better as a country. But that seems to be fracturing, that it's all about mine and me, and I'm going to take it, and I don't care what happens to you. What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter selling? Well, they're selling clicks. They're selling advertising. But the tougher question is, their product is you. You are Facebook's product. And how did that happen? And how did we allow that to happen? In that little thing, when you first fill it out, do you agree to these terms? Yep. Do we ever read them? Nope. Right? You are Facebook's product, my friend. I don't like that. Right? An algorithm is a calculation. And I want to talk about that just for another minute. So hang in there. Probably 5 more minutes, promise. Is there such a thing as an expert? Absolutely there is. That doesn't mean they're perfect. And that last one really tells me everything. Most people working in social media don't let their kids use it. Why? Because they know how destructive it is. So an algorithm, a calculation, it's a set of instructions, really. And that's a long, wordnik definition. But can we simplify it? Maybe it's just a simple set of instructions to solve something. You know what it's trying to solve? Keeping your eyeballs on your phone and clicking things. Because that's how money is made. That's how a company that produces nothing is worth billions of dollars. What problem are they trying to solve? Trying to keep your eyes on the page. Simple as that. Am I very negative about it? Absolutely. Am I being objective? I'm not. I don't like it. Here's a simple explanation about algorithms. What these companies, and if you watch The Social Dilemma, there are people watching what you watch, in so much as they're doing it through these algorithms. They're deciding what to show you and what not to. They're going to show you stuff that they know, or at least think, is going to keep your attention. Not something that's you're going to go, get that off the screen. This one's even better. Okay? It's a more informed explanation of filter bubbles, biases, that anything outside of what I think is true, I ignore. So I never expand my scope on the world, which is what college is supposed to do. Right? Expand your scope. So we're a bunch of myopic, this is the world individuals, or some of us are. And then the idea of clear coding, data brokers. The second one, the one over here, is a short video about when you click on, if you went to the New York Times or whatever it is, pick a website, I don't care what it is, there are algorithms from other companies watching what you look at, how long you look at it, if it's kind of sad or happy or whatever it is. Everything you've ever looked at on the internet is, I would say, most likely available to be dredged up and perhaps used against you. What if you looked at a website like the Anarchist Cookbook because you were doing research on homegrown terrorism? Well, that could look pretty bad if you're running for office and somebody goes, well, look, Breaky here, man, he was digging into how to make pipe bombs. Well, in fact, maybe I was doing research on how easy it is to make it and why we have a problem with domestic terrorism. Would you want everything you've ever looked at on the internet published in the newspaper tomorrow? I think the answer is no. And the last piece on health. With all of that, doesn't it seem like, people can get gloomy? I've mentioned this before, but that one anomaly of older white Americans, their lifespan has not been increasing. In fact, it's been decreasing, and here's why. They see the world around them that when they grew up, maybe their parents in the 70s and 80s, when they were growing up, that it's not the same. And oftentimes it's because they're not willing to transition or do something new, and so they medicate themselves to death. Okay? And here are the articles if you're interested. There's a couple interviews and the folks that did it. Dr. Case, Dr. Deaton, they're a husband and wife team. They're extraordinarily intelligent. Okay? The last video, as we wrap up, I don't want to end on a low note. And I use this video a lot, and it's very controversial, but it's from a show called The Newsroom, and it's about it's not an interview, it's a panel discussion, and the guy in the middle, Jeff Daniels, you'll probably recognize him, he's a very good actor, is asked why America is the greatest country on the planet, and he says it's not. And everybody's like, well, how can you say that? And he goes on to explain why. Now, there's two things. There's strong language. and the first half is purely a rant. You can listen to it. You can listen to the numbers he puts out there. But he ends the rant telling this girl who asked the question that she is part of the worst period generation period ever, period. I disagree with that. I don't disagree with the stats that he uses, but I think every generation looks at the one coming up behind them and thinks they're terrible. My grandparents did to my parents did to me, I did it to my kids. It's kind of a natural course of human events because they're different. So I don't buy that. But the second half of that video is what I really like because it snaps us back at least a little bit, and a little bit subjective and a little bit hyperbolic, but what we kind of used to be. Look, America in the 1950s and 60s wasn't perfect. Vietnam War, civil rights, assassinations everywhere you look, the Kennedys, Martin Luther King. But there was some elements, at least, that were better than they are today in the way we deal with each other. Okay? And maybe that's something we can hang on to as a country, is that we should be moving in a positive direction together. My neighbor's not somebody I'm competing with. He's my neighbor. Okay? Whew, that got preachy. And the opioid epidemic, you guys can look at these numbers. It's again back to the industry of misery. And I don't want to end on that note. So you can look at these college students don't eat well, don't sleep well, don't exercise well. Okay? Knowing that, maybe we should do those things because that's part of health. And look where the obesity epidemic is, like fried food central. So let's end on this high note, this idea of renewal. With all that's out there that can be seen as negative, try to do this. Mental, spiritual, physical, working out, social, emotional, friends, having a hobby, having some common connection. Try to renew yourself against all of this stuff that seems to be going on out there. Okay? A focus group, people at each other's throats about the election. The media contributes to it. If it bleeds, it leads. And I think, you know what? I think this is the exact same link as the one I was just talking about. So, sorry about that. And here's what I said. Worst period, generation period ever. The second half, I extracted one piece. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't fear it. And we were able to be all these things because we were informed. That's what college is about. Being informed, being objective. Listening to somebody else that you disagree with and go, I agree with part of that. Or maybe I don't, but here's why. And it doesn't become a screaming match or worse, threatening people outside a school board meeting, for the love of God. Okay? So do listen to that. And look, people have said, they've told me this in class. It's like, how can you play that? You must hate America. Yeah, that's why I served 22 years in the military. I hate it. No, but what I don't like is this idea that this is where we are, this is the best we can do. I do not like that. Okay? Fair enough. Renew yourself against this. That's part of what school's about. Mental, social, emotional. If you can, don't always take online classes. Take somewhere you get to meet other students. Keep going to church, right? If that is part of your bag, do it. You feel better when you leave, don't you? And don't, fall into the no sleep, eating crappy realm, which tends to happen in college as well. Keep your physical and mental. All that stuff goes together, folks. Whew. I hope that was a little bit upbeat. Man, this is probably the record longest. But again, this is only the second of 2 videos for our week 6, step 5. Okay? Right. Gotta get the quiz ready. We've come to the point where we're hitting the Thanksgiving break. And so the finish line is in sight. Don't take your foot off the gas for week 7. Right, you've done all the work thus far. Keep going. I'll see you in week 7 as we cusp into December.